Harry Osborn has definitely been one of the more interesting characters from the Ultimate Spider-Man universe. So far, we've gotten very surface level stuff about him. We haven't gotten to know what his motivations, what his backstory is, and just in general, what's going down in his life. But, ladies and gentlemen, with issue number 5 of Ultimate Spider-Man, we get exactly that. I was expecting issue number 4 was gonna have a lot about Harry Osborn's life, and sure, we got plenty of it. We know that he's married to Gwen, she's still alive, but what I really wanted to know was how he got the suit, what he's doing with it. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, issue number 5 is where all this gets told. We're going to be reviewing issue number 5 of Ultimate Spider-Man, and if you're enjoying this video at any point, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump right into this comic. With this issue, the Green Goblin gets a very solid foundation into his backstory and his motivations for what he's doing. The story has been playing out as the Green Goblin is just a vigilante in the sort of sense that Spider-Man is. Or at least that's how the story's been interpreting, his actions. Like I said, we really haven't gotten too much, just surface level stuff. With this issue, we do get the sense that he wants to do good, but perhaps the disappointing voice of his father in his head might encourage him to go a darker route. At one point in the story, I get the feeling that he wants to just completely Homelander a guy, just completely off him, where you're also dealing with villains and heroes, but you're also getting a situation where the villains are definitely incredibly dangerous. The intro to the comic is incredibly impactful. It stems Harry Osborn's entire motivations throughout the Ultimate Spider-Man story. We've learned from previous issues that Harry Osborn lost his parents during that terror attack on New York that stemmed from one of Tony Stark's satellites. So naturally, the Stark name was blamed in this situation. With this issue, this specific intro to this comic, we get a visual on the actual attack itself. Moments before the attack actually happened, we get an interaction between Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn, and Harry's running late to this fancy party, so Norman just had to call him to see what was going down. He was supposed to be right there at that time, and as an Osborn, you have to abide by that rule of keeping your word. Harry Osborn is just on the other side of the line, getting told how much of a useless son he is by his dad, as he tries to make it to that fancy party, which he can see the building in the distance of. And as we're getting some very juicy moments where Norman Osborn is telling his son how useless he is, the building where the fancy party's being hosted at just gets taken out by this attack that we've come to know comes from the Stark satellites. As Harry Osborn watches. I don't know about you, but I totally consider that a huge emotional loss for my boy Harry Osborn. The guy is on his phone with his dad, he's telling him how useless he is, and at that very moment, that fancy party where his dad is at just gets taken out. What? In this comic, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting some really good, juicy lore bits. So this comic establishes that Wilson Fisk has just been promoted into a higher position of power. Wilson Fisk and Harry Osborn had a meeting where Wilson acquired the Stain and Stark assets, all his technology, everything, and he needed someone to go through all the mess to collect what is actually useful. So he set up a deal with Harry Osborn to sell the company to him and have him sort through all the mess. And this is where we get the origin of the creation of the Green Goblin suit, ladies and gentlemen. And we get the very first appearance of this new Ultimate Universe of Dr. Octavius, the very early beginnings of Doc Ock. We discover in this comic that Dr. Octavius is working under Osborn Industries. So he's a very smart man. He discovered this facility that contained all of Stain and Stark's secret files and technology. The moment they discovered the facility, Otto's just breaking into the systems left and right. The dude's just getting in. And Gwen's like, whoa, hold on there, pal. Before you can start playing with all this stuff, you gotta sign a really beefy NDA. Otto's like, what? I gotta sign an NDA before I can play with all this stuff? Gwen's like, that's right. My boy Otto, with a smirk on his face, goes, where do I sign? And his appearance in this comic, the way that he's drawn, he looks an awful lot like original Peter Parker from like the very, very original comics, when he just looked like a nerd. Within months, Otto's already got a suit going on for Harry Osborn, the Green Goblin suit itself, utilizing the Stain and Stark technology that they acquired. Otto also hooks him up with the traditional Goblin goblin weapons as well as the goblin glider. I really like the explanation on why they ended up hooking up Harry Osborn with the hovercraft instead of, just having another Stark armor suit that flies by itself. Otto explains that he just couldn't figure out the arc technology that goes along with it. Apparently he understands the repulsor technology better, so he'd just rather be safe than sorry. This is also where Harry learns that there's a lot of other Stark technology out there in the world, and that could just range from literally anything. So now there's an objective to collect all these Stain and Stark assets. Also, with all the digging that Otto's doing, this is how Harry finds out about the powers that be that control the world, that were established by the Maker. So he definitely already knows that Wilson Fisk is not a good guy. I physically laughed out loud with the storytelling that they got going on with the series. So in previous issues when Spider-Man had fought in the Shocker and he just got blown away and the Shocker managed to get away, it's definitely during the early stages of when Spider-Man was just learning to do what he's doing. During that confrontation between Spider-Man and the Shocker, the Green Goblin got to see and witness the entire event. And my theory was, the Green Goblin is definitely not gonna follow the Shocker. He's probably gonna follow Peter Parker and find out that, he's Spider-Man, he's going out here and doing this stuff, inevitably discovering his identity and just where he lives in general. But no, my theory just got blown out of the water with the storytelling they got. This comic explains that after that specific confrontation, the Green Goblin actually followed the Shocker instead of the Spider character. I was just thinking to myself, well, holy shit. And not only that, we also get the explanation on how the Shocker gets his shocking fist. Because the Green Goblin inevitably actually confronts the Shocker after he was confronted by the Spider-Man character. So the Shocker, upon getting interrogated by the Green Goblin, it gets revealed that the gloves that he has, such a crazy way. So he was actually in the middle of just a breaking and entering, and he was just gonna rob this guy. But upon breaking into this guy's home, he witnesses similar events to the way that Peter ended up getting his powers. So you know how the box just appeared in front of Peter and the hologram of Tony explaining the situation, granting him the powers of, Spider-Man? Well, in this scenario, the hologram does appear, but it's not for the Shocker, it's for the guy that's inside of the apartment space. But as the hologram appears, the guy himself gets a heart attack and he just passes away. And the Shocker character who's breaking and entering just takes the gloves from the box and just claims it as his, effectively, giving him the shocking ability that he has. And oh my lord, this raises all kinds of questions on what is even happening with the situation of Tony's hologram showing up and giving that guy the gloves. Is he supposed to be the Shocker? Or is he supposed to be a hero with those gloves? What is even happening in this overall story arc? The Green Goblin, of course, is after this piece of technology, but the Shocker is not gonna give him up that easily. So he tries attacking the Green Goblin, but it does absolutely nothing. The Green Goblin actually hacks into the technology and just turns it off. Now, ain't that a convenient ability? After turning it off, he just knocks out the Shocker and leaves with the gloves. I love the fact that the Shocker tries pleading with the Green Goblin similar way to how he got away with the Spider character earlier, by bringing up how his wife is sick and he needs the money, but the Green Goblin doesn't give a fuck. He just knocks him out and takes the gloves. I love it. Now, before the dinner date from issue 4, both Harry and Peter had a get-together before they actually had their dinner date. They met up at a bar to try to get acquainted with each other. And these guys are just having a couple brewskis, just chilling, talking, drinking it up. You know how it is, fellas. But they get into the serious nitty-gritty of the world's reality that they live in. Harry explains to Peter about everything that he knows about how the world has worked, involving the Maker and whatnot. Now, if we're getting into some snobby level reviewing here, this scene with both of these guys teaming up to take on the world heavily resembles the same exact bar scene between J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben in previous issues, where you have another couple of guys getting ready to team up taking on the world. Now, after a huge lore dump on Harry Osborn, the book leaves us on what happened with Bullseye, and he's definitely being held captive somewhere at a secret location. But we get revealed that the armor that he was wearing during the previous battle was some sort of skeleton that was embedded into his skin. And they had to pry that off from him. Ooh, that must have been painful. Now you can see the Green Goblin definitely trying to do some sort of good in the world, but he's also taking the wrong actions and approaches to it. And that is the base of the cliffhanger, ladies and gentlemen. That is how the book ends. Overall, definitely a solid piece of work. Without having an official ranking list, I would say this is definitely way up there as one of my favorites of this Ultimate Spider-Man series. And very easily I could say that every single one of these individual issues has been a joy, a blast to read. Really good, a solid recommend for you, ladies and gentlemen. Go out and buy yourself this book, especially if you're a fan of that spandex wearing red and blue guy. If you enjoyed this video at any point, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.